Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Islam actually began with the first man, the first human being, Adam. He was the first messenger of God. He brought to his children and grandchildren the message of worshiping God alone. And this is Islam, submitting to God, worshiping God alone. A series of messengers after Adam brought the same message, worship God alone. The first commandment in the Bible, the message of Moses, the message of Jesus, the messages of all the prophets of Israel, David, Solomon, and so on, is one and the same. The first commandment, worship God with all your heart, all your body, and all your soul. Worship God alone. The Quran states very clearly that the religion, as far as God is concerned, is Islam. So there is only one religion as far as God is concerned. If you want to be more specific, the original prophet of Islam is Abraham, because he brought all the religious practices in Islam, and we see this throughout the Quran. For example, in Surah 21, verse 73, Surah 21, verse 73 tells us that Abraham was the original source of course, God is the original source of everything, but Abraham delivered to us the Salat prayer, the contact prayers, and the Zakat charity. This is in Surah 73, verse 21. And we see this also with the fasting, the Hajj pilgrimage. All the practices of Islam came to us through the Prophet Abraham. The Prophet Muhammad contributed the message, the scripture of Islam, which is the Quran.
حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح.
The Prophet Muhammad contributed the message, the scripture of Islam, which is the Quran. God revealed the Quran to us through the Prophet Muhammad. The Prophet Muhammad was born in the year 570 AD, and when he was 40 years of age, he was appointed God's final prophet. Prophet means he brought a new scripture, the final edition of God's message to the world, and that is the Quran. The Quran was given to the Prophet Muhammad in one night, as we see in the Quran in many verses, in Surah 17 verse 1, in Surah 44 verse 3, and in Surah 97. The release of the Quran from Muhammad's soul to his mouth and his hand was done over a period of 23 years. From his age of 40 to the age of 63. He died at the age of 63. So over a period of 23 years, the Quran was being released after being placed in Muhammad's heart on the night of power, in Arabic Laylatul Qadr. The purpose of releasing the Quran over 23-year period is to help the Prophet and the believers at the time to memorize the Quran as it was being released. And this is stated in the Quran. In the Quran it says, لِنُثَبِّتَ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ, to fix it in your memory. So the release was very slowly, very gradually, and it took 23 years. God created the universe and created the human race And out of his mercy, he sent messengers and books to tell us about him. All these messengers and all the books that God sent to us preach one and the same religion. The first messenger was Adam himself, the father of all humanity. After him came messengers like Noah, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad. Muhammad was the last prophet bringing the last scripture, the Quran. And in the Quran we find everything we need. All the duties, obligations, commandments, prohibitions in Islam. Quran is the final scripture. It is the completion of the message. Because the previous scriptures were suited for that stage of human development. The Quran came to complete the picture, and now we have the final, the complete religion, Islam. The Quran is all you need. In fact, because God said that the Quran is complete, perfect, and fully detailed, if you go to any other source, you will be disobeying God and disobeying the messenger of God, Muhammad, who brought this Quran out of his mouth. God brought to us the Quran out of Muhammad's mouth. And you will be disobeying God and disobeying Muhammad if you follow any other sources besides the Quran. And specifically, I mean sources like Hadith, Sunnah, and all the other books and things that the traditions and the customs invented. If you go to any source besides the Quran, you will be disobeying God. Because clearly God says in Surah number 6, verse 114, for example, that the Quran is fully detailed. You don't need anything else. God says in verse 19 of Surah number 6 that the Quran is what was given to Muhammad to deliver to the world, and it is the only source for religious guidance and religious education. The Quran tells us exactly what the essentials of Islam are. And they are, very quickly, I'm going to go into details of these later on. Number one, to believe in God alone. You do not have any other idols. You are devoted to God alone. And this is represented by the Shahada, the first so-called pillar of Islam. Let us go along with that idea. The first pillar of Islam is the Shahada. And the Shahada is stated in the Quran, in Surah number 3, verse 81. Excuse me, it's verse 18. Surah 3, verse 18. It says, Shahid Allahu, means God bears witness, Annahu la ilaha illahu, that there is no God except He. And also the angels and those who possess knowledge will make this Shahada, which is La ilaha illallah, or Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. This is the first pillar in Islam. Surah number 3, verse number 18. The Shahada, the first pillar of Islam, is La ilaha illallah. If you want to make it complete, then you say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, the one God. Now, don't add anything else. Some people who imitate old inventions and old traditions will say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and then they make another Shahada that Muhammad is a messenger of God. We know that Muhammad is a messenger of God, but if you inject this in the Shahada, this ruins everything, because now you don't have God alone. You put an idol, Muhammad, next to God. And this is, by the way, is a very strong prohibition in the Quran, that you put any other name besides the name of Allah, the name of God. We find this in Surah number 39, verse 45. You must say, you must devote yourself to God alone. You do not idolize Muhammad and put him next to God. This will be going against God and against Muhammad. So the first pillar of Islam is Shahada, La ilaha illallah.
أشهد أن